Welcome to the Week 14 edition. I can't believe it's Week 14 edition. Jeez. Of the position preview here at WinDailySports.com. Sign up at WinDaily Sports. We are going to be using the optimizer, so we're showing you in this entire position preview what the optimizer is like, and you could sign up at WinDailySports.com and get the optimizer to help you build lineups for week number 14. And for the rest of the NFL season as well. Also, this is all sponsored by the Sharp app. Go to sharp.app, and there you can find all the ways that you could download the Sharp app. And it's just any of the app stores you go to. Google Play, Apple Store, anywhere you get your apps, you can find the Sharp app. But go to sharp.app to learn more on how to download the Sharp app. My name is John Jansen. Follow me at jjansen34. Joining me today, as always, well, not last week because he was in the wonderful, magical place we call Disney. But Jason is back from that. And now, Jason, you get to help us set some magical lineups with all that Disney magic you got for us.
I'll ride the magical vibe, man, but I'm shot, man. I need a vacation.
The magic's gone.
Nah, man. It was magical for my daughter. She's 3 now, but it was a lot of work, man. Mentally, physically, financially. It crossed all those check boxes, and now I'm ready to get back to work, sit on couches, build lineups, hopefully win some money this weekend to cover some credit card bills that are going to be coming in about 30 days. So it's an interesting.
So there's a lot at stake for you in week number 14.
Yeah, we need to have a big week, man. I haven't had like that monster NFL week. So hopefully this is the week, man. It's an interesting slate. There's a ton of value. Let's break down this value. Let's show off this optimizer.
Let's
get right into it, man.
Let's just show off how colorful it is first. And look at all that green, red, and orange. It looks great, but there's a lot to it, though. And we'll start with fantasy points per dollar. And right now, it's at least giving us Taysom Hill. And it's the reason why I started off with Taysom Hill and the fantasy points per dollar, by the way, and the value. Because Taysom Hill is really interesting. Like, he is the enigma that, like, we just don't quite understand, but he puts up fantasy points. And maybe it's the same thing that, like, Taysom Hill and Jalen Hurts are just under the same umbrella of, yeah, these guys just run enough that you can just put them in your lineups and you're good to go.
Yeah, look, man, I haven't looked back to see, like, the last time somebody threw 4 interceptions and dropped 27 DraftKings points. It's pretty darn impressive, though. So, like, I just wrote them up on USA Today. It's going to be a tough fade, man. Like, 27 points with 4 interceptions, and he didn't even get a rushing touchdown. So he just went out there, rushed for 100 yards, threw for 260 in a tougher matchup against a Dallas defense. Now he's playing without Mark Ingram against a Jets defense that's pretty atrocious. You know, they're giving up the 29th most, passing yards per game. So he'll be able to see a good look, passing 30th ranked rush defense. He'll be able to run all over him. Game script in his favor. And DraftKings dropped the ball, man. They really did. It's a mistake in pricing. He should not be a 5,600, quarterback on this slate. Fanduel got it right, So on Fanduel,
he should be close to what Jalen Hurts is every single week. Whatever Jalen Hurts is, that's the same that you should be pricing Taysom Hill.
There should be, a real discussion like, hey, on Fanduel, they got it right. I think he's like within $500-$600 from the top tier or $700 from the top tier, somewhere in that range. So, like, on Fanduel, not a must play. I'd rather take the safety over Mahomes or Josh Allen and some other quarterbacks we'll talk about. But on DraftKings, there's a reason why he's the top overall value. He's just way too cheap. The matchup is way too good. The fact that Ingram's out, I'll repeat it again, that helps his touchdown equity. If you don't want to play Taysom Hill, real nice leverage with Alvin Kamara. And you can play Taysom Hill naked. You don't have to play him with any of these, wide receiver threes that are trotting out there for New Orleans. You just play him naked. Hopefully he rushes for 100 yards. Hopefully he gets a rushing touchdown, throws for 1 or 2, gets you anything above 20, and you're sitting pretty, man. There's so much value on the slate, and it starts with Taysom Hill. I think he's safer than any of these other 5K guys. I like the upside that Heineke might be able to, go out there and do. Cam with no McCaffrey, he can go out there and score a touchdown or 2 from the ground. So all 3 of these guys are interesting, but look, Taysom has the highest ceiling, the highest floor here. So he's going to be popular. Right now, the optimizer is showing under 10% ownership. I think that creeps up to maybe 15, 20%. I can see him being the most popular quarterback once we lock in on Sunday. He's just way too cheap, man.
Yeah, and as you're seeing there, Taysom Hill, like very clearly a big value play on DraftKings. FanDuel still, like he is still somewhat of a value play, but again, yeah, DraftKings, he becomes much more available to you to put into your lineups. But as we get to some of the top projected guys, Josh Allen is at the top of this. He is in the top, let's say, 5 in ceiling projection as well. But I'm not going to lie, Jason. I think everybody's going to stay away from the Bills, and I think nobody's going to want to take Buffalo. I hate to say that nobody's going to take him because if we go projected ownership, like he has at 3.9% projected ownership, which is behind Bridgewater. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Looking at the optimizer right now, and that's, again, why it's one of the best tools over at Win Daily Sports, I love Josh Allen in this spot. I absolutely want to crush Josh Allen in this spot pretty much in all of my lineups because he's going against a bad secondary. They're probably going to be behind for most of the game, and it's all Josh Allen all the way.
Yeah, look, Allen's in a great spot. I think that ownership, as the ownership creeps in, it's a very raw and a stat that changes or a number that changes throughout the week. So I think as more lineups get crunched Friday, Saturday, Sunday, these numbers will change and, people will pivot. I don't think Herbert will stay the top owned quarterback without Keenan Allen, without Mike Williams. We'll talk about that when we get to the wide receiver position. But Allen, I feel like is sneaky. I wrote up Stefan Diggs. I think Diggs is my number one guy from the wide receiver position this week. Allen's game script is in his favor. Bounce back spot, coming out of that ridiculous game in Buffalo. This is a get right spot for him statistically. I'm not sure they win this game, but statistically, he has to go out there and chuck. He's got to throw the ball a bunch. They really have no run game, and Tampa Bay's defense is really good at stopping the run. So the Bills don't have a running offense. Tampa Bay's run defense is one of the best. So he's going to have to throw the ball a bunch. So that's why I love Stefan Diggs. And I think Allen is kind of sneaky on this slate where, look, he's only $200 cheaper than Patrick Mahomes. So people will play Patrick Mahomes, versus the Raiders, which, he lit them up in, I think it was week 10, threw for 5 touchdowns. And the game wasn't even close. And not to say that the game is going to be close this time, but he threw for 406, 5 touchdowns, and they won 41-14, dropped 39. So I think more people will feel more comfortable playing Patrick Mahomes over Josh Allen. So Allen is a sneakier GPP play. Mahomes, for me, is still the safer cash game play if you're paying up for somebody. And Taysom Hill is at the best value spot. Now, in between those guys, you got Herbert, which – I don't know, man. Like, he's cheap, but he's playing without Keenan and Mike Williams most likely. Look, if they both end up playing somehow and they pass these COVID tests, which doesn't look so good while we're recording this, I'm not going to load up on Herbert. I'll take the cheap value at the wide receiver position, but I'm not going to load up on Herbert. The guys that are interesting to me is not even Tom Brady either, because I think Buffalo's defense is pretty good, but it's not great. They're not a great defense. They're not the same defense they were. So I think Brady, sneaky for GPPs, but in cash, I prefer Allen and Mahomes or Taysom. But the guy that I like a lot is Dak Prescott. In the middle of the pack where, he's not priced in the top end and he's not at the bottom end where, most people land. They're either going to go up and grab Allen or Mahomes most likely, or they'll go down and grab Taysom or one of the other 5K guys. Now you got Dak at 6,700. I know Washington's defense has played a little better in division, not at home. So there's some negatives there, but he's got all his weapons right now, man. Like, he's got every piece to go out there and have a good game here. So I like Dak. GPPs, I probably won't play him in cash, but GPPs, I think he's a solid play in that mid-range, kind of the guy forgotten. Outside of that, Derek Carr potentially takes some shots here. 5,900. If Waller plays, I like him better. Without Waller, I'll probably stick to Taysom or maybe take a shot on Heineke. And that's pretty much the player pool for me. Like, I really don't like too many other quarterbacks here. Not really interested in Bridgewater against the Lions. Herbert, like I said, without his weapons, I'd rather play the value wide receivers or Jared Cook or Austin Eckler, which we'll talk about soon. But I'm not going to load up on Herbert at this price tag. I prefer Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I would say, because I'm shocked that the projected ownership for Josh Allen and Tom Brady, which is, by the way, the highest total on the bleeping board for Sunday, 53.5, and there's no other game in 50 on Sunday. 3.89% for Josh Allen, 2.63 for Tom Brady. I know Tom Brady has that DVP of 1. That becomes a concern, but look at the projection. They're going to be able to throw the ball against Buffalo. It's Tom bleeping Brady. They're not going to contain him. He has a chance, especially if this game does turn into a shootout, Tom Brady and the pace gets quicker, Tom Brady is going to have a great game. He's going to have close to 300 yards. He's going to throw for 3 touchdowns. This has the makings to me of a shootout, and we're getting that projected ownership under 5% for both guys. When Dak Prescott is 5%, almost 6%. I like Dak Prescott. I'm kind of shocked that Justin Herbert's getting all this against the Giants. So I'm with you, Jason. I'm going far away from Herbert. But I'm really shocked that the highest total on the board in 2 passing offenses, and especially with one, Josh Allen, who has a great matchup against Tampa Bay, and it's 3.89 for the projected ownership percentage. I love Josh Allen. I love Allen.
Yeah. I'm looking at props right now. We have some props up. I got the Sharp app up right now. And Brady has the highest player projected passing yards on the slate. So, look, Vegas agrees with you. Like I said, the optimizer will get adjusted throughout the weekend. More people dig in Friday, Saturday, make their adjustments. Brady's at 303. Josh Allen at 290. Garoppolo, no thank you. He's 249.
No.
Bridgewater 231, no thank you. Jared Goff 215, no thank you.
No.
Lamar Jackson, who we haven't mentioned, 229. Still I'm not going there.
I don't. Yeah, the offense is just too out of sync. No way.
Cam and Taysom Hill both under 190. Taysom 187, Cam 189. I'm not even going to mention Matt Ryan. No thank you. He's 231. Carr is 256. Patrick Mahomes 285. So Mahomes is up there, number 3 or number 2 on the slate. Actually, no, Dak Prescott ahead of him, 289. So, look, Vegas agrees with me, likes Dak there. I think Dak's in that sweet spot. Mid-range, not lowest, not highest. Outside of that, everybody else is low. I'm not going to talk about your boy Trevor Lawrence at 214, Tannehill 220. Russell Wilson, I don't know what's wrong with him, and Metcalf 240. So, look, we're locking in on the guys that, we already mentioned. Derek Carr is kind of like the sleeper. If he has some weapons, this game could get out of hand. A lot of passing here, expected from Carr to stay in this game. Think he's interested for GPPs only, but I'm going to be, on my core, and my player pool is going to be pretty tight at the quarterback position. I don't think you need to go too far outside of the guys that we mentioned. Mahomes, Brady, and, Josh Allen at that top tier, probably fading Herbert. And then looking at Dak in the mid, and then Cam and Taysom Hill, and maybe some Heineke, at 5,500 with some Derek Carr sprinkled in at 5,900. And that's pretty much the player pool for me at the quarterback spot. Talking DraftKings, FanDuel, you might be able to remove a couple of those names because they're priced out of where they should be.
Yeah, no, I completely. My player pool was very short. The lowest I'm willing to go is Taysom Hill. I like Dak Prescott, and then also Josh Allen and Tom Brady. That's it. That's pretty much all I'm going with. Now, I don't even like Patrick Mahomes in this spot against the Raiders. It's not like they're having ceiling games over and over again. They could against the Raiders for sure, but I'm just not banking on it. I'd rather go with Josh Allen and Brady, which projected is going to be a shootout, and Dak Prescott against that defense, and Taysom Hill because, severely underpriced for the production that he has. All right, let's move on over to running backs now. Is that kind of the same thing for you as we take a look at projections? Right now, Austin Eckler is the top projected. I agree with that. Pretty much Leonard Fournette, who's been doing very well. He's projected for 19.6. Joe Mixon, 18, after he just had a bit of a clunker last week that nobody was expecting. So I'll ask you this, Jason. Where are we going with our running backs for week number 14?
I think with the value that Taysom presents, and we have, Look, you got to get the Chargers right on this slate. I think you build a couple different combinations because if they continue to trend the way they're trending, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams will both be out. So Eckler's the safest piece of this offense. He has a good, rushing matchup against the Giants, and he's going to be very active catching balls out of the backfield. He always is. And now you take the two top weapons out, from the receiving core. So Eckler is super safe at 8,300. So love the Eckler play. Probably going to lock him in for cash and get a lot of shares of him in GPPs, and then just mix and match with their wide receivers and Jared Cook, and potentially, fade Eckler in some spots. But, he's probably going to be the highest owned running back that I'll have in my lineup. In lineups that you don't play Taysom Hill, I do think Alvin Kamara provides a ton of leverage because, look, let's just assume Taysom Hill is 25% owned or higher. Let's say 25%. And he, for whatever reason, lays a clunker, doesn't get in the end zone, throws his 3 or 4 picks, or maybe 2, doesn't need to be 3 or 4, and Kamara scores 2 or 3 touchdowns. It very easily can happen. Terrible defense from the Jets. Game script in Kamara's favor. So Kamara is super sneaky. I like him. I wouldn't pair him with Taysom. They really take away from each other.
Right, because Taysom would take away his touchdowns if that were to happen.
Yeah, so with no Mark Ingram, it's going to be the Kamara show, man. And their wide receiving core is pretty terrible. So he'll be in a very similar spot to Austin Eckler. So I don't see a way to play them together with Kamara and Taysom. But in a lineup that you're not playing Taysom, I don't mind the Eckler-Kamara option because we have cheap wide receivers from LA that can, give us some value in Palmer and Guyton, and we'll talk about that in a second. Jared Cook as well. So there's ways to get cheap value at different spots that you can maybe just pay up and grab Kamara and Eckler together. If you want to go cheap, Melvin Gordon right now is questionable. If he's out, probably going to hit the lock button on Javonte Williams. Like at 5,900, he got the workload last week. He didn't, underwhelm. He outperformed actually and took all the line share of the running work, caught a bunch of passes. So Javonte is in a situation here that if Gordon out, he's going to be pretty close to a lock button. So he's the value right now. We got a lot of questionable tags. So like Eli Mitchell, questionable. DeAndre Swift, questionable. And these are like serious questionables. I think Mixon plays. I think James Robinson plays. I think Saquon plays. I don't know what to do with Saquon, I'll be honest, man. I really don't know what to do with this dude. Like, giving him shots here and there. He's so cheap.
If it wasn't for the fact that he hasn't been practicing, I thought this would have been worth a shot. But if the ankle's still bothering him, what's the point? If the ankle's still bothering him, then I don't know if I can bank on the big play.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. Before the end of the season, there will be one Saquon game that he rushes for 100 yards and comes close to catching 100 yards and goes for 2 or 3 touchdowns. Is this the game? I'm not sure because Mike Glennon's the quarterback. They're probably going to have a tough time moving the ball with Glennon. So you can take a shot or two on Barkley, but I don't think it's like a guaranteed lock that he's going to just exceed value at $6,000. So he worries me a bit. I'm not a big Antonio Gibson guy. He's at $6K versus Dallas. He's popping in the optimizer as one of the better value plays. But I'll switch it to you, man. Out of these $6K running backs, if we're not going with Javonte Williams, who do you like the best, man? If it's between maybe Gibson, Jacobs, or Saquon, or if Eli Mitchell gets an okay that he's going to start and get the boatload of the work here, is he your guy? Who do you like in this mid range?
Yeah, this mid range is extremely tough, and Javonte Williams is one that keeps popping out over and over again. I was interested in the optimizer to kind of see where Jamal Williams was, because he has been fairly quiet since taking over for DeAndre Swift, who is out with an injury still, or he's missing practice, and he's probably going to be out again. But he's in such a great matchup against the Broncos. I see that DVP there of 8. That's mostly because teams are trying to play a little bit of catch up. It's a defense you can run on. We've seen it multiple times before, but it's just not popping the way I would want it. Javonte Williams is just way too clear of a pick. And that's about it, because all the other ones are risky. Like, I think Jamal Williams is risky. Dontrell Hilliard is starting to get a lot of play, and he's at 5.3K. He's been getting close to 20 points per game. But the thing is, you're taking the risk of, is he going to get either the touches out of the backfield or get the targets? He had 10 targets in his first game of his 2 that he had 16, and then 19. The 16-point game, he had 10 targets, and then the 19-point game, he had 12 carries for over 100 yards. Like, he is a big play guy. He has big playability. He has a great matchup to do it, but it's really bleeping risky because it's a running back by committee. We don't know if it's going to be D'Onta Foreman taking all of it. So, yeah, look, if you want to be really safe, and with running back, I think it's fine being safe. I'm going with Javonte Williams and then either a combination of Eckler or Alvin Kamara. I just think that's the safest way you can play this and the best one. And you can get different somewhere else. It seems like we're getting a little bit different at quarterback, and I think we can get different at wide receiver. But like running back, the only 5-6K plays I see are way too risky outside of Javonte Williams. Way too risky.
Let me throw a name out to you, and you tell me what you think about him. What about Hubbard here versus the Atlanta Falcons?
I am nixing anything on the Carolina's offense because I don't know what it's going to look like. Like, it's you're firing your offensive coordinator and changing your philosophy like in season. That is ridiculously hard to do, and they're doing it when they're trying to get a playoff spot. By the way, they're going for a bleeping playoff spot, and they changed their offensive coordinator, who was very pass heavy and should have been, because guess what? They have 2 really good wide receivers, and now all of a sudden
they got Cam throwing the ball though. That's a problem.
But that's
Cam can't throw the ball.
Joe Brady didn't say like, "Hey, give me Cam Newton." Like it's
but
they're in a bad
spot.
I know, but they're in a bad spot. But you have to throw the ball. Like, you can't run the ball when you have Chuba Hubbard back there and Cam Newton, who's in his 30s. Like, I know Cam Newton can't throw the ball, but damn, dude, you got to. It's the best shot they have of winning. And so you're changing your entire philosophy, and I just don't think Chuba Hubbard's good enough. Like, he's a rookie. He hasn't proven anything yet. And I think this offense is just going to be an absolute mess. So while the DVP is probably going to say that, yeah, Chuba Hubbard's in a good spot, no way. I can't do it in an offense like this. I can't trust it. I cannot trust it at all.
And what about, I'll mention one more name. What about Foreman here? Is there any love here for Foreman? Game script potentially in his favor. Look,
right.
if you can run for 109 yards, and I know you had that one big play, you busted one for 30, but if you can run for 109 against New England, now you have a week off here. Any love for Foreman? Look, Jacksonville defense, the rushing defense is 21st ranked. They're gonna probably be playing from ahead here. I would assume Tennessee is the favorite here. I'm looking at his prop projection as well. It's 63.5. That's only 3 yards, under Antonio Gibson. It's above Hilaire, above Josh Jacobs, only 6 yards behind Kamara. I know Kamara gets a lot of his action, catching balls out of the backfield. Only 6 yards behind Nick Chubb. He's up there, man, and the price is right on him. Can I sell you some D'Onta Foreman at 5,100 at least?
That's a tough one. I mean, he's getting just a little bit over the same carries as Dontrell Hilliard. I just my only thing is Hilliard's, at least there are multiple ways that he can get on the stat sheet and that he can break out a big play. Like, he can catch passes. D'Onta Foreman's not going to do that. Foreman, you're basically hoping that in the 12 to 15 carries, he can break a big run and he can get in the end zone. But I don't know, man. It's between Hilliard and Foreman. If you can get it right, you're absolutely right to try attack that spot. the game script is going to call for it, and Foreman's going to get the carries, but it's just trying to figure out if it's Hilliard or Foreman. Like that to me, it's what you're trying to figure out. So if you can and you want to take the chance on either one of them's going to pop off. It could be both. Like honestly, it could be both against Jacksonville. They're that bleeping bad, but I don't know. I'm not sold on either one, and I would probably lean more Hilliard just because I know he can catch passes as well, and he can get on the stat sheet that way.
It's a tough call, man. I think the safe way to go is to lock Eckler, potentially lock Kamara if you're not going with Taysom Hill and you can afford him, and then let's kind of hope Melvin Gordon's out so we can slide in the easy play of Javonte Williams. And I don't even mind, Williams if Gordon is playing and he's kind of banged up. So, I think it's a pretty strong play any way you look at it. Outside of that, we're looking for some value here. And we're going to have to take some shots, man. We're definitely going to have to take some shots on, one of these 5K, 6K guys if we can't afford the Eckler Kamara angle.
Yeah, and let's move on to wide receivers. And as you can see here, we are using the optimizer. You can use this as well to help build your lineup for week 14. Just go to windailysports.com, sign up, and I'll even use windailysports.com/radio. I don't know if Jason wants me to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Windailysports.com/radio. You can get a 1 week free trial, and in that included will be the optimizer. Go check it out. Trust me, it's a incredible tool, and it's one that you should be using to help build your lineups and to help get you started too. That's what the optimizer to me is best for. Let's move over now to wide receivers, Jason, because running back, I agree. I'm keeping that player pool extremely, extremely small, and it looks like we're going to be eating a little bit of chalk there. But wide receiver now gets real fun. Where are we going at wide receiver? Where do you want to start out here?
We got some injuries that we got to kind of watch. The ones that are really interesting is Deebo Samuel. If he's out, going to probably load up on some George Kittle, maybe take a shot on Ayuk again. And DK Metcalf, I think he plays, but he's questionable right now. If he's out, then you're going to have to load up on some Tyler Lockett and maybe some Freddie Swain. But make sure you just check out, either listen to the show on Saturday night on Sirius XM at 11 o'clock, Channel 87, our Win Daily show there. We'll have some, more news, more information to deal with these injuries, or check out the free live stream Sunday, 11 a.m., windailysports.com. We'll have all the inactives by that. But let's assume, all these guys are playing outside of, I'm assuming right now that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are out. So there's going to be some value we'll talk about in LA. But in the top tier, I think my number one guy is going to be Stefan Diggs. Over Tyreek, I think Diggs has to have a big game. Buffalo is fighting for playoff spots, and they got to show up. They're going to be throwing pretty much the entire game. Like I said earlier, you can't run on Tampa Bay, and Buffalo does not have a run game outside of Josh Allen. So Stefan Diggs is in for a monster game. Whether they're winning or losing, I think Diggs has a pretty big game here, man. I can't see a way he doesn't go out there and grab 100 yards. So he's the first guy I'm trying to lock in. Look, Tyreek's in a great spot, but I don't think that the Raiders can really force Mahomes to be throwing the ball for 4 quarters. I think the Raiders have lost a lot. Waller is most likely out here. So this could be a blowout. Not to say that, Tyreek can't get his points early in the first half and score 2 touchdowns and put up 100 yards. He's the most explosive guy in the NFL, freak athlete. So he can get there. I just think if you're playing 4 quarters, I think Diggs outperforms him. Props are pretty close. Stefan Diggs, 77.5. And I think Tyreek might even be above him. Yeah, he's 78.5. So pretty much identical props. I just think Diggs is the better play this week if you're choosing, one over the other. So I got Diggs at the top of my board. Look, if Deebo plays, great spot for him. He's the leader of that team offensively. So he's in a great spot. Tyreek in a great spot too, man. He lit up the Raiders pretty quickly. And I don't think Buffalo's defense is as good as it was last year. So Godwin also in a good spot, and CeeDee Lamb in a good spot too. So kind of have it ranked Diggs number 1. If Devo plays, I might have him number 2, slightly ahead of Tyreek Hill, and then Godwin at 4, CeeDee Lamb at 5. And after that, in this mid-range, I love what Renfro is going to end up doing. He's going to be targeted probably 10 to 15 times. So he's pretty safe for cash games. I don't know if he possesses the upside for GPPs. And then CeeDee Lamb, as much as I would like to play him in this spot, there's just so many guys on Dallas that he's going to be fighting for targets for. So could have a great game. Yes. I like Dak a ton. I like attacking Washington a ton. Just a lot of mouths to feed in Dallas. So not going to be fully endorsing CeeDee Lamb. Good play, good GPP play. I think he's the number 1 receiver in this offense. So you can take shares there. So that's pretty much where I'm at in the high end and that mid-range. And now we got to talk about the Chargers. What's your thoughts here? Palmer, Guyton, Palmer in the slot. He's popping as a higher value play. Guyton, slightly more established in this offense over the past couple of years, more of a big play guy. What's your thoughts here with Palmer and Guyton?
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting how they play this because James Bradbury is one of the few really good players on the Giants. And I imagine since Palmer's going to be in the slot, it's going to be a lot of Guyton that is seeing James Bradbury. So if that's the case, it could be really heavy Josh Palmer. Like it could be a heavy, heavy dosage of him. So that would be my play. But it's not like I'm saying that Guyton can't have a good game because we know Justin Herbert loves to throw the ball downfield. Now, they've opted for a short passing game this season, and it's worked, and that's why Josh Palmer is the better play. You look at the fantasy points per dollar, you look at the projected number and everything else, and he's even more of a projected ownership than Guyton, but I'm sure this is going to end up being these guys get a lot more ownership this weekend. But I would say Palmer, but the thing is, like Herbert can throw the ball downfield extremely well. He's one of the best deep passers in the league, and Guyton is the one guy that's going to be able to do it. So if they connect on a couple of those against the Giants, and look, the Chargers are a 10-point favorite, so it could happen. Guyton is going to just completely explode for a big game, and I imagine he'd be one at 3.4K. That would just be amazing if he ends up getting that. But I think the safer one and the one I'm going to opt for is Josh Palmer because I can already see it now. They just pepper him with short targets. He gets about 10 targets and 8 catches and whatever it might be. But I would opt for Josh Palmer, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think he's the safer of the plays.
Yeah.
I don't mind playing both of them, man. Like they're both in that 3K range.
Agree. Yep.
Where they get you 7 to 10 points. You're cool with that, man. Like, and they will probably both get you that. Palmer might need 4 catches. Guyton might need 2 of those to get to value. So, look, I think they're both in play. What I would do if entering 150 lineups is kind of split them down the middle. So, in your exposure in the right column here, set your max exposure to both of them, to like 50%. Set your min exposure to both of them at around 25% or 30%, depending on which one you're leaning on more. And, when you hit the optimizer button and you build out the rest of your rules here, you'll guarantee that you'll get, a certain amount of each of them. And then you can also build out some rules here that, you don't want to play them together, or you only want to play them together in a certain amount of lineups. And you can, mix and match them with Eckler, without Eckler, with Cook, without Cook. How many Chargers is too many? I would say, I have no problem playing 2. I really don't want to play more than 3, though, from, the running back, wide receiver, and tight end position, because I don't think the Giants are going to put up a bunch of points with Mike Glennon. So I think ideally, you go Eckler and one of these wide receivers, or Eckler and Jared Cook, or, you go with 2 of the wide receivers, you fade Austin Eckler and hope that Herbert throws, for 3 touchdowns.
Right, because you have a
Palmer.
300-yard, 3-touchdown game like Herbert can, and he has a ceiling game, which we're not expecting. But if that's the route you want to go, and you have Herbert in your lineup, then you're putting both Palmer and Guyton in there. You have to. They're free plays, and they're two guys.
You got Jared Cook there too. Don't forget about Jared Cook, who's established in his offense, 3,200 as well. So it's like I don't think Cook has a worse floor than those two guys. Cook might have a lower ceiling than those two guys. Yeah. But remember though, Cook, he's a matchup problem. If he gets the targets, he's a big dude, red zone threat, and he's established in his offense. It's not like he has to really build rapport with a quarterback because he's now filling in. Like, he's already been in the system. He's already been on the field a bunch. The only thing that worries me with Jared Cook is the guys that love vulturing touchdowns behind him, and Parham or Steven Anderson sometimes, makes their way on the field. So a little worrisome there. Like I said, I do like Tyreek Hill. I do like Kansas City. A cheap way to get some Kansas City exposure. Sia was right. McCole Hardman is not that good at football, man. Like, he's quick, he's fast, but he makes mistakes. And if you can't figure things out with Tyreek and Kelsey beside you and Patrick Mahomes throwing you the ball, guess there's something wrong there. So Byron Pringle is back up the depth chart now. He's getting slightly more targets. In an earlier matchup against the Raiders, he caught a touchdown. 5 targets, 4 receptions, 46 yards. So, he's kind of sneaky in that range. I can see him getting into the end zone. I can see him, dropping 15 points. Nobody's going to really play, a 3,200 Byron Pringle when Palmer and Guyton are there and everybody's like, oh, I got to play these guys. So I think he's sneaky. I think he's, good for GPPs. I'm not going to load up on him or hit the lock button on him, but I think at 3,200, he does make some sense. Look, if Cam can connect with DJ Moore, he's targeting him, but he's not really connecting much. DJ Moore makes some sense in the mid-range. And Hunter Renfrow, man, if he ever scores a touchdown, he's really going to smash value because he's just getting, every single target, in the slot. He's just getting 10 to 15 a game. You can't not hit value when you're getting 10 to 15 targets. You put up over 100 yards in the last 2 games without Waller. So if Waller's out, Renfrow's pretty much a lock for 15, 17. Very easily can score 20. And like I said, if he finds a way into the end zone and he's got 4 touchdowns on the year, he could put up a 30-point game easily because Kansas City should be, putting up 30, 35, 40 points in this game. So they're going to be playing from behind in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I also don't want to forget CeeDee Lamb. I love CeeDee Lamb on this slate too.
It's.
I know it's getting a little bit crowded again with Cooper back and Gallup.
That's the only problem.
But still, if we're expecting a good passing day and you like Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb is just remaining the number 1 target. I know it is getting crowded, and I get it, but I think it's proven over and over again. And he's been on the field, and he's Dak Prescott's number 1 guy. I think CeeDee Lamb has proven he's the number 1 receiver in that offense. And if we're expecting a big game, then I'm expecting 1 out of him.
Yeah, he is the guy, but there's only 3 times this year in 13 weeks that they've played or 12 weeks with the bye that he's exceeded 10 targets. And I'm not saying, there's a couple of them are 9 and 8s and 7s. He's averaging 17 points a game. He's got the massive upside, great matchup, great stack with Dak. If I'm stacking anybody with Dak, it's CeeDee. But as a one-off at 7,200, kind of worries me too, man, because it's not like Cooper is dead and he's not going to go out there and, be involved. I know he's been dealing with COVID and he's been sick and not really recovered right, but he should be, back.
Yeah, he should be fine
this week.
Yeah. He'll be good to go.
Cooper is still there. Gallup is involved. Schultz's involved. Pollard's involved. So that's the only worry with Lamb is you're praying. If you tell me, do you want Lamb or Godwin? I'd probably just go with the tougher matchup and go Godwin. If you tell me I can find a way,
I actually love the other Tampa Bay wide receiver.
Why Evans in this spot? Because It's been
$500 cheaper, and he's still producing this year. Look, there's also this thing that's out there of Mike Evans at home. All of his touchdowns have come in Tampa Bay this season. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but it's a thing for some reason.
happening.
But no, it's just like things alternate and it goes back and forth. And I think this is a good game for Mike Evans.
2 touchdowns on the road, but 8 at home, averaging 22 at home versus 12 on the road. So there must be something there. Maybe Brady cooks him a nice meal.
And I know that's a little bit of a niche, like that's a weird stat to be pulling up. So I'll just say this. I think, again, it's the highest total on the board at 53.5.
What do you stop for a second? What do you make of this Buffalo defense? Is it good or is it bad?
It's fine. I think it's a good defense. There's nothing wrong with the defense. It's just the game environment is going to be fast-paced, and if it's fast-paced, Tom Brady is going to score. It's just not going to stop from happening. So if this game environment does end up going absolute bonkers, and Josh Allen's scoring, and he's got 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, Tom Brady's going wild. It's just, Buffalo's great, but we're talking about an offense that is one of the best passing offenses in the league and one of the best quarterbacks in the league and maybe going to win the MVP in Tom Brady. So for as good as they are and this DVP is going to scare a bunch of people away, I'm not scared of it, and I don't want to be scared of it. This game environment is tailor-made for both Tom Brady and Josh Allen to go nuts in, and I want to get a piece of that. It's just crazy to see that there was one game specifically that is made to be a high-scoring game, and nobody wants a piece of it. Not anyone.
Yeah, I think they're worried about the defense a little bit. Yeah, they worry about the defense.
And I get that. But in any other circumstance, I would be. But it's Tom Brady. Tom Brady is not going to be fooled by anything that he sees. Since Rob Gronkowski has come back, it's been even better for Brady. I know there were a couple of weeks there, especially that Washington game where he didn't look particularly good. But I think since Rob Gronkowski's back, they have pretty much a full repertoire to use, and they've been using it. And I think Mike Evans, I think he's going to have a big game. I truly do. I like him $500 cheaper in a great game environment, low ownership. I like Mike Evans.
Definitely sneaky. You mentioned Gronk. When he's been playing lights out, man.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Touchdown machine.
Yeah,
touchdown
and
machine.
Brady's just attacking him.
Yeah.
Talking about tight ends, Kelsey at the top, pretty obvious. He lit up the Raiders. He's been up and down this year for whatever reason. I think he's still the safest tight end on the board. If you have the money, he's the guy you're paying up for. I can be sold on George Kittle if Deebo Samuel's out. If Deebo Samuel's out, I actually prefer Kittle over Kelsey because they're gonna have to throw the ball to keep pace with the Bengals at home. I think the Bengals are gonna put up some points here. They have a good offense, so Jimmy's going to have to throw the ball. And if Deebo's out, I do like Kittle. If Deebo's in, I'll pay up and spend the extra $5 and get Kelsey. So that's really the determination that I got to make if I'm in that zone and I got that money. Now, if I don't have the money and I'm not playing Guyton and Palmer together, or, I'm not really in favor of either of those two guys, you got to take some shots on Jared Cook, 3,200. I just don't see a way he hurts you. He's the safest tight end on the board. And if you're trying to get guys like Eckler or Kamara or Stefan Diggs, best value on the board, at the tight end spot is Jared Cook. So I don't mind going Cook with Palmer together at 3,200. You only need, like I said, 8 to 10 from each of them, and you're safe. You're safe. You're in the right zone. If they go out there and put up 15, 20, now you're in contention, if the rest of your lineup is really good. To take down a GPP. So I think Jared Cook, smash spot.
Any James O'Shaughnessy. I know that was a big play for everyone last week.
And look, I wrote him up. On
you?
USA Today. So, looking at it, it makes sense because Tennessee's defense is not good. Nobody else is stepping up for Jacksonville. Dan Arnold in the role of, tight end prior to O'Shaughnessy taking over was heavily involved, man. Heavily involved, targeted a bunch. Last 2 games, 5 targets, 6 targets. It's what you want to see. Early in the year, he had an 8 target game, before he got injured and before Arnold came back or came onto the team. So this guy's been involved. He's been working with Lawrence, in camp. So it's not like he's just filling in for somebody here. So 2,900 really can't go wrong. They're going to be playing from behind. The matchup's good. 26, ranked passing defense in Tennessee. So I think it is a pay down week at tight end because you want to pay up in other spots. So Cook, O'Shaughnessy, I like both of them. I wrote up Austin Hooper too.
Nice.
Look, if
really?
Landry,
Okay.
If Landry is out,
Right.
or Landry's been banged up, and I hate Baker Mayfield. I hate this passing
Well, you would
offense.
think. Well, I guess the hope is he's also healthier out of the bye week, so there's some at least maybe increased performance from him.
Yeah, look, it's Landry, Peoples-Jones, and Anthony Schwartz or Rashard Higgins. So he's above
Not
them.
much, yeah.
Yeah. So look, he's gonna be the second or third most targeted player, catching balls from Baker, which is not the position you want to be in. You don't want to be catching balls from Baker, but Njoku out, Harrison Bryant out. He should get all the run at tight end. So he's going to be on the field a bunch. And then questionable tags to Jarvis Landry, limited practice on Thursday. He's been banged up all year. So with that being said, I think this is a good spot for Hooper, slightly above, these cheaper guys and Cook and O'Shaughnessy. You're going to probably see half the ownership on Hooper just because he's a couple dollars more and he's not a popular dude and he's not being spoken about too much. So I think Hooper is a nice pivot off of Cook. So if you do go with two other Chargers and you want another value guy, I think you go with Shaughnessy or Hooper. And if you got the money,
I like the Hooper call.
Yeah, if you got the money, you go up there and you pay up for Kelsey. And if Debo's out, you go out there and you grab Kittle. The only other guy I'll mention here is Gerald Everett. If for whatever reason Metcalf is hurt or he doesn't play, Everett's probably going to get the second most targets on his team. Even if Metcalf plays, Everett kind of sneaky. Russ likes his tight end. It's a good matchup here. They should be, scoring at will here against Houston. So Everett's been involved, 6 targets, 9 targets, 4 targets, 8 targets, last 4 games. So another guy, if you want to pivot off what might be chalk in these other cheaper tight ends, if Everett finds a way to score a touchdown, he's dropping 15 points. So Everett's another guy that I might get to if things shake out right, where there's too much ownership on these guys. And I already loaded up on the Chargers and other spots, and Landry plays and, somehow DK Metcalf is out. Everett does come into play at 3,500 on DraftKings.
I like it. And Jason, I think that'll wrap things up here for the position preview. Again, see this on the screen. See all of this, all the pretty colors, all the projections, fantasy points per dollar, rating, ceiling projection as well. Look at the ceiling projection for Gronkowski, Kelsey, Kittle. You can find all of that on the optimizer. Again, promo code windailysports.com/radio, 1 week free trial, and you can use it and use the optimizer and just see for yourself how great it is and set your lineups for week number 14. But sign up, windailysports.com. Also, Sunday morning at 11 a.m., as we mentioned a few times, Sticks and Ghost will be live helping you pregame, getting you ready for week number 14 before lineups lock. That is Sunday at 11 a.m. And be sure to enter the experts chat as well over on Discord, windailysports.com. Go to the Academy tab, and you'll see there on the right side the experts chat that you can enter. Also, this is all sponsored by the Sharp app. You can go to sharp.app and find all the ways and find all the information about the Sharp app. But you could download it Google Play Store, Apple Store, anywhere you get your apps, and find it sharp.app. That is it for us. More coming this weekend and all here on Windows.